Watched them all the time. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa, Caitlin Clark play about the same last year. So I watched a lot of basketball.
Like, can we get Caitlin Clark a little protection?
Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time.
You know, I usually stay out of these conversations, but with Caitlin Clark, I can't stay silent anymore.
I'm sick of watching Caitlin getting attacked. If the league doesn't step up and protect her, things are going to get ugly real fast.
Okay, this story is completely insane. And if you're a diehard Caitlin Clark fan, you need to watch this whole thing before you go anywhere. Drop a CC 100% in the comments if you're with us. We read every single one. All right, let's dive right in. What happens when a legend of the game watches a young superstar get physically hunted on the court? Larry Bird did not hold back. His take on Brittney Griner going after Caitlin Clark has the entire basketball world talking. Because here's the real question. Has any young player ever been targeted the way Clark has been since literally her first game? Bird watched that Connecticut Sun matchup, and something in him just snapped. And this is the part Griner really doesn't want to hear. Caitlin Clark is walking down a road Bird has already walked himself. Rewind to the 1980s. Bird was the smartest player on the floor, night after night. Nobody could outthink him, so instead, they tried to outmuscle him. But here's where it gets interesting. Bird draws a hard line between tough, physical, championship-level basketball and what he's watching happen to Clark right now. He's not calling it tough. He's calling it cowardly. One of the ugliest things he's seen on a court in decades. If you're locked in on this one, smash that like button and subscribe. Seriously, over 80% of you watching haven't hit subscribe yet. Takes 2 seconds, costs nothing, and it helps us a ton. Done. Perfect. Thank you. Now, back to the story.
Comes out and says, I am so sick and tired of the NBA, WNBA. It used to be a peaceful, small little thing. Now there's crowds screaming, hollering. This is disruptive. It's not allowing us to play the game. This is her quote. I don't know if you saw this or not.
The moment Larry Bird watched the replay of Brittney Griner shoving Caitlin Clark to the floor, his response was instant, and it wasn't gentle. Remember, this is a man who battled some of the roughest, most physical defenders the game has ever seen. Guys like Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer, players who made a living out of pushing people around. If anyone on this planet understands the difference between hard-nosed competition and something darker, it's Larry Bird. And even he looked at that footage and said, this crossed a line. This wasn't basketball anymore. This was something else entirely. What really caught people's attention was how precisely Bird broke down the timing of that shove. He didn't just call it a hard foul and move on. He picked it apart, moment by moment. And what he found left Griner's reputation hanging by a thread. Because for weeks, fans had been quietly saying the same thing to each other in comment sections and group chats. That something about the way Clark was being defended felt off. But nobody with real credibility had stood up and said it out loud. Until now. Bird's message was simple and honestly, kind of brutal. Hitting someone who has no idea it's coming isn't defense. It's not toughness. It's just dirty. And he made a point of reminding everyone that his own era of basketball wasn't exactly a tea party. It's still remembered as one of the most physical stretches in the sport's history. But back then, there was an unwritten code. If a player had a problem with you, they came at you face to face. Nobody waited for your back to be turned. That code, Bird says, is exactly what's missing here. And that missing courage is what set him off. Right now, Griner's image is taking a real hit because of what Bird said. But honestly, what came after the incident might have made things worse. Instead of holding her hands up and admitting the play went too far, Griner turned around and said fans and the media were piling on her unfairly. She basically framed herself as trapped, criticized no matter what she did. And that response is what really got under Bird's skin. Because in his eyes, real competitors own their mistakes, especially when those mistakes put another player in actual physical danger. Watching Griner dodge responsibility reminded him of something he'd seen plenty of times before. Players who know, deep down, that they can't keep up with a generational talent. So instead of raising their own game, they try to slow the other person down through cheap shots. In Bird's eyes, that's exactly what's happening here. A player leaning on physical tactics because she can't match Clark on pure skill. And this is where things get really interesting, because Bird didn't just criticize Griner. He opened up about what makes Caitlin Clark so special to him personally. He sees a version of himself in her. That same elite basketball IQ. That same ice in her veins shooting under pressure. That same rare gift of making every single teammate around her better just by being on the floor. But as someone who's spent his whole life studying the purity of the game, Bird also sees something troubling. Instead of Clark getting to just play, to fully unleash everything she's capable of, she's constantly having to look over her shoulder, bracing for the next cheap shot. To him, that's the real tragedy here. Bird went further, saying Griner's behavior represents a much bigger problem in how some players are choosing to guard Clark. Rather than putting in the work to actually match her skill level, some defenders are taking the easy road, going after her physically when she's not looking, when she's completely unprotected. And Bird doesn't mince words about what that is. He calls it the lowest form of competing there is. Since those comments dropped, the basketball world hasn't stopped talking about it. Now here's an interesting twist. Bird actually compared Clark's situation to his own rookie struggles. The physical hazing, the targeting, all of it. But he was quick to point out something that makes her situation even heavier to carry. Caitlin Clark is only 22 years old, and she's dealing with more pressure than most professional athletes face across an entire career, all while being asked to single-handedly carry women's basketball into the mainstream. That's not a normal rookie season. That's an entirely different level of weight on someone's shoulders. But it's what Bird said next about Griner's future that's really setting the internet on fire. He warned that if the league allows players to go after its biggest stars without any real consequences, it sends a dangerous message to every average player watching. It tells them that cheap tactics are a shortcut to staying relevant, instead of actually improving their game night after night. And if that becomes the norm, Bird believes it risks driving away the very stars who make the whole league worth watching in the first place. He didn't stop there either. Bird pointed out that kids are watching all of this too. And letting this kind of behavior slide teaches young fans completely the wrong lesson. Instead of learning about hard work, skill, and respect for the game, they're learning that targeting your rivals is an acceptable way to compete. That's not the legacy Bird wants basketball to leave behind. But here's the part of his statement that hit the hardest. His prediction for where Clark goes from here. Bird insisted she is built for exactly this kind of grind. Every dirty play, every cheap shot, every attempt to rattle her is only going to sharpen her focus and fuel her even more. He compared it directly to his own rookie year, when defenders hammered him constantly just to test whether he'd crack under pressure. He didn't. And Bird believes Clark won't either. Even though she's handling all of that physical pressure while also carrying media hype and commercial expectations unlike anything the league has ever seen before. That's exactly why Bird's speaking up matters so much. He's not just defending one player. In his mind, he's protecting the integrity of the entire sport. To him, Caitlin Clark embodies everything great about basketball: the talent, the vision, the class, the relentless drive to compete. And on the flip side, he sees traits in how players like Griner are operating that could genuinely damage the game if they're allowed to continue unchecked. Bird made it clear the WNBA is standing at a real crossroads right now. There are only two paths forward. Either the league steps up and protects its most electric talent, letting players like Clark elevate the sport to new heights, or it keeps looking the other way while lesser players use underhanded tactics just to hold onto the spotlight. According to Bird, the direction the league chooses here will shape its future for years to come. So here's the real question everyone's asking. Will the WNBA actually listen to a legend like Bird and step in to protect its biggest star? Or will it keep allowing shady, physical tactics to slide, even as they chip away at the league's reputation? That's the debate raging across social media right now, and honestly, there's no clear consensus. Some fans think Bird is being completely fair, calling out something that's been ignored for too long. Others think he's overreacting to a single physical play in a league built on toughness. Either way, the conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. What's clear is that this has stopped being about one game, one shove, or one heated moment. It's become a much bigger conversation about the future of women's basketball, about what standards the league is willing to enforce, and how its biggest stars get treated once the spotlight gets this intense. Almost no athlete in recent memory has walked into a league carrying the kind of expectations Clark has. Every possession she plays gets picked apart. Her highlights go viral within minutes, and her mistakes make headlines just as fast. That's simply the price that comes with being the most talked about name in the sport right now. At the same time, veteran players are still out there competing at the top of their game, bringing years of grit and pride onto the court every single night. The real challenge for the league is figuring out how to let that competitive fire burn without letting it cross into dangerous territory. Fans genuinely want intensity. They want real rivalries. They want physical, hard-fought basketball, but they also want fairness. They want their favorite players walking off the court in one piece. And because Bird has lived through exactly this kind of fire himself, his words carry serious weight in this debate. He spent his career going head-to-head with some of the toughest, most physical defenders basketball has ever produced, but his message was never just about surviving toughness. It was always about protecting the purity of the sport, making sure skill wins out over drama every single time. Whether you agree with every word Bird said or think this whole situation has been blown out of proportion, there's no denying it sparked a massive conversation. Analysts, former players, media voices, and fans everywhere are debating what should actually happen when a league's brightest stars get physically targeted like this. Should referees be calling this tighter? Should the league be handing out real fines? Or is this just part of playing professional basketball? Nobody seems to agree completely, and that's exactly why this story keeps growing. Through all of it, though, Caitlin Clark's response has stayed the same. She keeps her head down, keeps showing up, and keeps letting her game speak for itself. She refuses to let controversy define her season. And that quiet, relentless focus is exactly why her fanbase keeps growing louder by the week. Every eye in the basketball world is on the WNBA right now. Social media is exploding daily over these clips. Arenas are selling out, television ratings keep climbing, and brand new fans are discovering women's basketball for the very first time. But moments like this one carry weight. They shape how the entire league gets perceived on a global stage. As the season rolls forward, every matchup gets scrutinized a little more closely. Every hard foul gets replayed from a dozen angles. Every whistle, or missed whistle, adds fuel to a conversation that just won't die down. This is shaping up to be one of the loudest, most talked about seasons the league has ever had. So now it's your turn. Do you think Larry Bird's comparison to his own era actually holds up against what's happening today? Is the league doing enough to protect its stars while still letting the game stay physical? And what does all of this mean going forward, for Griner, for Clark, and for the sport as a whole? Drop your honest take in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over, and your voice is genuinely part of shaping it. If this breakdown kept you hooked, do one simple thing before you go. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your take, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this story, because trust me, it's only getting bigger from here. Turn on notifications too, so the moment the next update drops, you're the first to know. Basketball history gets written every single night, and you don't want to miss what happens next.